I think that shot's got more development. It's not going to be something where in a year's time. I think he is really might be more of a slow-boiled developmental player for the Magic, but a little bit of a reach for me. But I'm not totally opposed to this.
Older brother Mo Wagner first pick of the Lakers in 2018. Now the Wagners have a lottery pick in the family. What's the grade? Here's Keem Dermish.
Yeah, and interestingly, Mo Wagner is an unrestricted free agent. They signed him during the season, so the chance to sign him now and play alongside his brother there in Orlando. Gary Parrish, welcome back in here, as perhaps we'll have the Wagner brothers playing alongside each other in Orlando. Your grade for this pick is what?
I'll go B-. You know, he's very young, so there's a lot of room to develop. But there's signs here. He played 2 years of college basketball, and I don't think he was ever a top 2 player on either team. People describe him as a shooter, but he's never shot well from three-point range, although in fairness, he's a great free throw shooter, and that is sometimes an indicator that somebody can also be a great three-point shooter. One of the things that stood out to me throughout this entire pre-draft process is that when people discuss Franz Wagner, they often start the evaluation with, he's a great team defender. It's just not the way evaluations are usually started about special talent. Nobody ever started the Cade Cunningham, Evan Mobley conversation with plays great team defense. Like, if that's where you start, there's a lot of stuff missing. So I won't rule out that he could, with time, develop into something that makes this pick look smart. But I've said this before, I'll say it again.
We head to the top of the hour here on the clock, presented by G. Keep It Locked. You're watching CBS Sports HQ as our NBA draft coverage continues.
What a horrible draft.
There's an America we build and one we explore. One that's been paved and one that's forever wild. But freedom means you don't have to choose just one adventure. You get both. Introducing the wildly civilized, all-new 3-row Jeep Grand Cherokee L.
You see, head.
The 3-time Cy Young Award winner, not headed to San Diego, headed to Los Angeles to play alongside Trey Turner and the reigning World Series champs. A monster piece of breaking news here in Major League Baseball. And this is just absolutely going to change the landscape of baseball. Dodgers 2 games out of the NL West behind the Giants as they look to repeat as World Series champs. And now they get Max Scherzer and Trey Turner from the Washington Nationals.
On a night where baseball's making all kinds of trades, the NBA, really no trades in the draft. Everybody's picking in their slot. Again, there you go. Sacramento, slated to pick at 9, picks at 9. And they go with Davion Mitchell, Naismith Defensive Player of the Year, national champion, shutdown type of guy, and he goes to the Sacramento Kings. Right here on our HQ coverage presented by Jeep. All right, Matt Norlander, I'm going to start with you. His nickname is Off Night. Why?
because when he plays other guys, they have off nights against him.
See, when I play basketball, my nickname is Off Night, but for a very different reason.
Need to see you in knee pads and pickup game as soon as possible. Davion Mitchell is obsessed with basketball. I don't think you'll find another prospect in this draft who is more devoted to the craft in every possible way than Davion Mitchell. This is actually pretty intriguing here because we go back about 2 months after Baylor wins the national championship, and Mitchell's stock actually hit a rocket and went into the top 10. And then, and speaking with some NBA evaluators in the past 2 weeks, you know, he was more drifting to 12, 13, 14, and that was a bit confusing to me. I think this is about the perfect spot in terms of where he should be picked overall. And as for the fit, I mean, it's maybe a little bit weird when you consider that backcourt now, but I think that he is going to be a 10-year player. This is the best defensive player, Avery, in the NBA draft in 2021. All around best defender and a big-time get here.
And I've been watching this kid, even when he was at Auburn University, he wouldn't even look at the basket. Now he's become a much better perimeter scorer to go along with all of his defensive prowess. This kid can absolutely, I agree with Matt, shut down any player at the 1 or 2 guard position and has a strong body similar to Suggs. But I think he's made the most jump with his game in terms of his offense. And then you look at De'Aaron Fox, the starting point guard for the Sacramento Kings. He will back up Fox and play a similar role that Cameron Payne plays for the Phoenix Suns, backing up Chris Paul, bringing that enthusiasm and energy off the bench, leading that second team. I think he's one of the older players being picked in the top 10 mature players. I think this is a solid pick for the Sacramento Kings.
All right, there you go. What grade will this pick receivers be determined?
Well, I'm giving an A+ to Kenny White because his top prop on this night was under the draft position of 12.5 for Davion Mitchell, and he goes 9th. So way to go, Kenny White. Knowledge in your mind, money in your pocket. Now let's get a grade from Gary Parrish. And Gary, I know you love Davion Mitchell. This feels like a great pick here for Sacramento.
Yeah, I'm going to go A+. You know, Davion Mitchell's a guy, I thought at one point was a top 5, 6, 7 prospect in this draft. And, you know, whether it was just noise or not, perhaps we'll never know. But in recent weeks, that has started to slip a little bit. But if you can get him, you know, this deep in the draft with the 9th pick, I think there's real value there. Tenacious on-ball defender, initiated offense for the national champions, shot nearly 45% from three-point range. He is just, again, a tenacious on-ball defender who was wired the right way. He's going to compete every minute he's on the floor. He's going to drag guys with him. So if I'm Davion Mitchell, I'm happy that I didn't slip out of the top 10. And if I'm drafting at this point in the draft, I can understand why you wouldn't pass it.
So up next, going 10th overall, is Zaire Williams out of Stanford. Now this is New Orleans pick, but it will be traded to Memphis. So Zaire Williams out of Stanford, 11 points per game, nearly 5 rebounds per game as a freshman for the Cardinal. Zaire Williams was a guy that Matt Norlander was big on in the mock drafts, targeting him each and every week on the Iron College Basketball Podcast. So again, Zaire Williams going 10th overall. Again, this will be heading to Memphis. All right, back here with Gary. And Gary, this is a kid you talked a lot about, as I mentioned, on the Iron College Basketball Podcast with Matt Norlander. Zaire Williams, a kid from Stanford, headed to Memphis now in this proposed trade.
Yeah, I'm going to go A- here, and I know this is much higher than most people had Zaire Williams going, but it completely falls in line with what the Grizzlies are trying to do. They know they've got a young star in John Morant. They think they've got another young star in Jared Jackson Jr. What they wanted to do was try to find a young prospect with incredible upside who can play in between them on the wing. And so the pick is Zaire Williams. Now, I know he didn't have a great season in his 1 year at Stanford, but it was an unusual situation that makes it easy to understand why things maybe didn't go smoothly. But don't ever forget this young man who was ranked 6th in the class of 2020, 2024. So this is the big swing that the Grizzlies front office has insisted they want to take. They're not trying to finish 6th in the West in 3 years. They're trying to win it. And the best way to do it is to get 3 young stars who can grow together. Zaire Williams, they're hoping that he's going to be the 3rd piece of that.
Yeah, DK, 19 years old, is Zaire Williams.
How's John Morant going to like having him on the team when he says, oh, we got the kid from Stanford coming in, coach?
Well, I think John Morant's going to like this kid. You know, he's a 6'10" kid that has shot-making ability. When you look at Memphis, you know, they traded for Steven Adams. He's not really a shooter. So you got to have big guys that can make shots. They already have Jaren Jackson Jr., you know, who's underperformed a little bit in his young NBA season, so NBA career. So I just think this is a solid move in terms of having a big guy that can spread the floor. This kid, you know, struggled last year, but he was projected to go high in the draft. But because he struggled, a lot of folks had him going towards the tail end of the first round. So I just think for Memphis, who complements Ja Morant? This is all about Ja Morant. Who plays well with Ja Morant?
I agree. That's why I said, how's Ja Morant going to feel about the pick? It's his franchise. We got to get him some help. We got him some size. That will certainly help. And this is a guy apparently got a lot of love in the United College Basketball Podcast. So I need to know what you were saying about it.
Well, this goes back weeks, more than weeks, practically since the end of the season. I just happen to believe that we're going to look up in 6-7 years, and Zaire Williams is going to prove to be one of the 7 or 8 best players in this NBA draft. He went higher than I anticipated. In my mock draft, I had him going high, top 8 range, but a month ago, that was not the case whatsoever. He was projected much more in like 15 to 20 range. Potentially a nice little coup here from Memphis. Seems like a little bit of an outside-the-box pick, but quite clearly, when we consider the trade with New Orleans, the franchise pegged its player, and it knew that he'd be available in this spot here. It will be an interesting one. He'll adapt pretty well. One quick thing to know about Zaire Williams, he went through a really rough season last season because Stanford, for more than half the season, didn't even play or live in its own county because of COVID restrictions. He had a death in the family. He never really got his college career going the way that it should. I really think in 2-3 years he could grow into a fantastic role player in the NBA.
All right, 10 picks in close. What's the storyline? What's the headline? 10 picks in.
It's Suggs dropping to 5, but we've got something playing out here right now. James Bouknight has not been selected, and this is the stunner, okay? He was expected to go 6 to Oklahoma City, and the fact that he is still sitting there after 10 picks, it's right alongside Suggs for me in terms of the biggest story so far.
All right, how about you? Top 10 picks,
Franz Wagner.
Where are you going to use James Bouknight?
Yeah, I think that's a big story.
You loved what they did at 5 with Jalen Suggs. You thought 8 might have been a little early for Wagner.
Yeah, a little 8.
I did not see Orlando at 5 getting Suggs. You know, we did this, even if you look at it a month ago, I said, hey, many more fairy tales. But yes, that's what they ended up getting after Scotty Barnes went 4 to Toronto. So 10 picks down, we still have a whole first round to get to, and now we have a selection at number 11, and it is from UConn, James Bouknight. And I know how it's spelled, but it's Bouknight. Pretend that you're using it. Bouknight. UConn. And the reason I said it like that is that's what you say when he makes those shots. Because you're getting him to put the ball in the hoop. Not the biggest, not the most physical. What you were saying in a modern NBA where they're not allowed him. This isn't the Derek Harper hand-checking NBA coach that you knew and loved. This day you breathe on Steph Curry. He's going to the line for 3 shots, and this kid can put the ball in the basket. What do you think of this selection and fit with Bouknight going at 11?
Yeah, I think there are some conversations, and Matt can talk a little bit more about this. This could have been Moody here.
Could have been Corey Kispert as well.
Corey Kispert. But again, when we talk about how do we compare players in the fit, when you look at LaMelo Ball, who my buddy Gary Paris talked about last year, was definitely in his mind was the best player in the draft. I've been watching LaMelo since he was in 7th grade. How does this fit with him, especially with the way he handles the ball? But you look at the ball handling ability, this kid's a scoring machine. He comes from a tough program playing for, Coach Hurley. You got to be able to play through some confrontations and some tough practices. And when you're a young player transitioning to the NBA, I think, a couple other players could have gone here, but I don't have a problem with this pick, EK.
Interesting. Didn't play basketball until middle school. I'm going to go on a limb and say He's the only one who played in college. You know, maybe we have four who didn't pick up a basketball, one playing until middle school. Bouknight is a very specific kind of guy. He's somebody, when I talk to people, a lot of people love him, a lot of people don't like him. There's a lot of varied opinions on him. You seem to be in Camp Bouknight, on Team Bouknight. Tell me why.
Because he can create for himself, create for others. I think he dropped for two reasons. One, heard a little bit of noise about concerns over, he had a meniscus issue when he was in high school, some knee stuff. That's a little bizarre. And then I also think that his numbers, like he's a very good shot creator. And he takes tough shots, he can make tough shots, but the numbers actually don't support this narrative that James Bouknight is this top 3 or top 4 shooter in the draft. That's not the case. Regardless, this franchise is quite familiar with high-profile stars out of the University of Connecticut, and when they took Kemba Walker, it worked out pretty decently, all things considered, when you consider what Kemba did as a member of the Hornets. And now, this to me, you team him up with LaMelo Ball, Charlotte becomes like a top 3 must-see regular season NBA team next season. Bouknight, him dropping, I'm just telling you, this kind of situation, you could look up and see he had no business falling past 6 or 7, let alone getting all the
Travis, Bouknight, when you look here at 11, that board is not going to be right for you with him going at 11 to Charlotte.
I think this is an absolute steal for the Charlotte Hornets. I absolutely love what they're getting in Bouknight. He was actually at number 7 on my big board that I posted earlier this week. Just a dynamic 3-level scorer, and he projects to be a really good shooter. I know his numbers aren't there. He does have a bit of a tough shot selection, which plays a little bit into those numbers. And this is a kid that suffered an injury during his high school season, and during his senior season after that injury, he made a big jump in his development and really impressed the rest of the way out, heading into UConn, obviously. Played 2 years there. This is a kid, when you talk to the people around him, they just rave about his work ethic and his competitiveness and his drive off the court to just continually get better. He's never going to be satisfied. He's always going to continue to find ways to get better. When you're a guy who just loves to get buckets, you're going to continue finding ways to get buckets.
All right, I see that you like him. Again, this is a player that a lot of people like and are like, he's a modern NBA guy where, you know, you don't need to be the most physical guy. You can create shots and you can put the ball in the hoop. There's a spot for you, and you can be a very impactful NBA player. What's going to be the grade for James Bouknight?
All right, James Bouknight, again, let's give props to Kenny White. I mean, continuing to put knowledge in our mind, money in our pocket. James Bouknight over 6.5 in his draft position as he goes 11th overall to the Charlotte Hornets. We welcome back in Gary Parrish. And Gary, this is something that you guys talked a lot about on the Iron College Basketball Podcast. His pre-draft workouts were awesome, and it certainly impressed Charlotte here as they perhaps get a steal at 11th overall.
I think they did. I didn't think, as of this morning, scenario that James Bouknight was going to be available outside of the top 10. But here we are, and Charlotte was smart to snatch him up. I mean, this is a guy who can play with the ball, moves incredibly well without the ball. He's a top-shelf athlete, and really the biggest concern about him as an NBA prospect was that, you know, he didn't shoot good percentages from UConn, but by all accounts, he shot the cover off the ball at the Combine, Pro Day, and in various workouts. And now you're Charlotte, you got LaMelo Ball and James Bouknight, you know, as your backcourt of the future. That's a really, really nice combination. If I'm a Hornets fan, I'm thrilled right now.
I like it. James Bouknight headed to the Charlotte Hornets. When you talk about James Bouknight, and maybe you touched on it a bit, the concern of the three-point shooting for him ultimately, Gary?
Well, that's the concern based on if you watched him play at UConn. The percentages were not good. There's no getting around that. And, you know, if you really break down the film, there was some, you know, release a shot here, then release a shot there, rise high on some jumpers, not as high on others. You've got to get a little more consistent with that. I'm sure Avery would agree. But again, in the workouts, he shot it well, according to everybody I talked to. And if you're not concerned about James Bouknight being a subpar three-point shooter, like if you think that's not a problem going forward, you're really getting something special in a guy who's got a chance to be a real shot creator and shot maker in the NBA. And when he's got LaMelo Ball setting him up, either in the half-court or transition, is real quick Lee, in just a matter of 2 drafts, the Charlotte Hornets have put together, I think, one of the neat, really cool young backcourts in the NBA.
James Bouknight certainly a comfortable guy, and he'll take the coaching direction the tutelage of James Borrego.
Let's take a look at the last 5 selections you see there. Jonathan Kuminga, athletic, defense, versatile, and that's going to play very nicely with Steph Curry and with Klay Thompson coming back. And then Orlando, their second pick in the first top 8 Brett Wagner from Michigan. Davion Mitchell, that defensive player of the year, the national champion Baylor Bears. He goes for 9. The kid from Stanford, 6'10", helping John Morant. That New Orleans got traded. That is now a Memphis player. So they have two Memphis players in the trade. And then James Bouknight, all right, Spurs forever didn't even know there was a lot. I mean, they picked Tim Duncan in 1997 and then thought it got canceled for about 8 years. Last year they were in the lottery, now they're back there this year. And they take Josh Primo from Alabama. This is a kid Canadian. All right. Went to Alabama Crimson Tide. This is a kid who look at what he did, averaged 8 points, 2.4 rebounds. This is a potential and what they think they can do kind of pick. So let's bring our guys in. Avery, who's coached at Alabama, Matt Norlander, Joshua Primo. You like what this fit is with him in the Spurs?
A little bit surprised that Primo went this high, but this is a long-term play for the Spurs. I don't think they're counting on Primo to come in and start and play, 38 minutes a game in his rookie year. He's got a few guys ahead of him. But from what I've heard, Primo really took a major step forward at the combine in Chicago. He was really ahead of schedule. He blew some GMs away. And I think what he did, not only at Alabama, but in his workouts in the Chicago combine, showing his ball handling skills, I think a lot of the GMs fell in love up close and personal with his size. He's interviewed extremely well. So he just rocketed up the draft board. So this is a long-term play for the Spurs. This kid, fell in love with Alabama when we took our team to Canada to play some of those preseason games back when I had college.
I knew there was going to be a connection. You either coached the kid in 6th grade, knew this kid in 5th grade, recruited him, signed him, had him for months, or you took the team to Canada, he saw them play, and then ended up.
That's why I'm on CBS Sports HQ.
And then in the meantime, you're officiating Sean Payton's wedding in Mexico. What are you doing? You're here, you're there, you're everywhere. Avery Johnson. Look, Alabama was not supposed to have the year they had, and then suddenly look, you go, their coach was a very good coach, excitable guy, did a great job, and they had a lot of different guys that I liked and looked at. What do you think of Primo?
He wasn't the first, second, or third most important player on the roster. Josh Primo is the biggest riser of any player in this draft. For him to go this high is frankly stunning. But this is quite clearly a long-term play. There's fascinating dynamics here. I mean, Greg Popovich is on the other side of the planet right now, coaching a completely different team as the draft's going on. We've got the Olympics as well. I cannot wait for my buddy Gary Harris to grade this draft because I'm just not seeing it here. He was a decent three-point shooter, just 50% from 2, only played 50% of the available minutes on a quality Alabama team. He's an NBA draft pick, don't get me wrong, but this is, to me, this is the biggest reach that we've seen so far, and that's even saying with Josh Giddey going as high as he did and kind of stunning everyone going to Oklahoma City. He's a quality player, but I'm a little stumped. I want to hear GP's grade. Go all in.
We won't wait.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it. Gary, it's Professor Paris. Let's go. What do you got on Joshua Primo?
I'll go C+, and Norlander's right. This is by far the biggest stretch so far in this draft. You thought the Grizzlies reached for Zaire Williams, really nothing compared to the Spurs going with Josh Primo in this range. He is only 18 years old, and he is a shooter. So I'm not going to put a ceiling on somebody, and I'd probably go a lower grade if this were a different franchise than San Antonio. They have a track record that you should be able to trust over the years, but there is no scenario where I would have considered. I don't think Josh Primo in this range.
Well, that's the lowest grade that Gary has given out tonight. Is C+. It is a passing grade, C+. But Joshua Primo headed his first 12 overall, much more ahead from Gary Parrish as we continue to grade the draft. But sometimes in the sports world, we have to step aside because of big-time news. Like when Max Scherzer goes to the Padres, and then all of a sudden he goes to the Dodgers. Wait, hold on a second. You say what? We're going to explain next. Jim Bowden on deck. You're watching On the Clock, presented by G. Keep it locked. Watch CBS Sports
Nation. There's an America we build and one we explore. One that's been paved and one that's forever wild. But freedom, each time to choose just one adventure. Get moving. Introducing the wildest in the West. 3-row Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Recibe la mitad de la propiedad. El resto de la propiedad se divide en el si hay tiempo, no hay perfectamente la propiedad. La mitad del control, la otra mitad se reparte el 4 La C no puede ser porque es domina el La C no puede ser.
Oh my God. Oh, no, he was wretched about that. I mean, you want to talk about making somebody feel like they're capable of anything is like having to do this. The way he spoke to me in the book, then after he was done with his then it was sorry, I'm not so hard, but that's how I feel like I was raised. And I was looking at him and I said, Tony, I said, with all due respect, yes, I said, all due respect to that, I said, that doesn't give anybody a chance to talk to someone. I said, you really hurt my feelings. He's like, we'll just be uncomfortable. I said,
Los condominios ofrecen la propiedad de unidades individuales dentro de un edificio. Cada propietario es dueño de un espacio aéreo de televisión. La propiedad de cada unidad de condominio incluye propiedad fraccionada de la área. Lo único que vale como corporación es la cooperativa. Cuando juega cultura, la misma como corporativa, corporativa, la
there are no traces. I don't know, but probably
Ahora usted verá con cuál de las siguientes Joint tenant.
What's up with you?
Una tenencia mancomunada es un bien de dominio absoluto compartido por dos o más personas que deben tener intereses iguales e indivisibles. Una tenencia mancomunada solo puede crearse cuando están presentes las todos los incluidos deben tener igualdad de derechos y de uso y legales y civiles. A la muerte de un propietario, la propiedad desaparecida no pasa por nombre de la gente, sino que pasa a los propietarios que En caso de divorcio, la decisión se convierte en una tenencia en común, a menos que la Corte tome otra determinación. Ahí se tenencia en común. Stop trying to be a woman. You're not your girl. You're not your goal. A no ser que la Corte dice the way you do stuff. En Florida, el líder americano paga por separado del matrimonio. Florida está dividida a nombre de uno de los candidatos antes del matrimonio, o son adquiridos por regalo o herencia durante el matrimonio, se considera propiedad separada. El cónyuge dueño de la propiedad puede transferirla sin el consentimiento de los cónyuges. La Florida no reconoce propiedad comunitaria como ocurre en algunos estados. En un estado de propiedad comunitaria, toda propiedad durante matrimonio es propiedad conjunta. Y acabamos. ¿Una pregunta? Nueva York. Hay un edificio pequeñito. Tuvieron que hacerlo así porque la dueña del edificio es su 20. Y los que estaban comprando corporaciones grandes ofrecieron de todo. El edificio gigante, rascacielos hasta allá arriba, separado. La una altura de no sé cuánto, acá en Tulay, acá en la nube, murieron de porque tiene derecho a la parte de arriba de tu propiedad hasta cierto límite. Se ve lo que yo pensaba que ella iba a la cama, no, que es la pregunta. Y yo no la tengo. I don't know what the real root of things are. I feel like it's going to be good.
She sounds now. It was awesome that you said hi. Yeah. Well, for my mom, coming next spring, my last been for 20 minutes. Today was the first time I could, in history of her working at that where I think my mom is yes, and they well, and it's like you're having to
Una tendencia afortunada y es el horario de compartir con dos o más personas que tienen intereses iguales. Cuando amigos con iguales derechos y uso de la profesión, cada uno tiene 25% de derechos, no igual a And I didn't say I'm saying this is wrong. I did not say this. I'm saying that I was didn't know that I'm not open or still on that thing. Where I'm not speak with that. So that's why you gotta have the right. Out there with that. And you gotta have
There's always going to be experience many different things. Knowing that all that being said,
You see the road.
you know, wearing a mask is important. I would say, like for me, just get vaccinated. And it's funny, when I got my vaccination, looking forward, I was never, ever thinking where I is. I had it fully vaccinated, now I don't have to wear a mask anymore. I pretended I still never got vaccinated. I still mitigated it. I think well, you really have to be
That's
Something that is